So I want to talk a bit about the Canadian Association of Physicians for the Environment because I think we're doing a lot of useful things. So what is CAPE? It's an organization of doctors and scientists and people that are working in healthcare around the country that have been active for about the last 25 years and have been involved in a lot of different areas. Divestment is sort of one small area, but I want to show you some of the other areas we've been involved in. So this is a rough idea. This is from our website. Some of the things that we've been involved in. The top right, pesticides, has been a big and long-term issue that we've been involved with across Canada. Healthy and sustainable energy is what motivates us here, primarily in BC. Climate, health, and policy, we have connections with politicians back east primarily, and we're involved with helping influence them with coming up with press statements, with helping them develop policy. Air pollution and the biking thing. We've been quite involved in developing active transportation ideas and policies, which primarily involved Ontario, but we have modules and organizations that can spread this across the country. This is where CAPE's been in the news. Now the woman with the faux fur around her head is Courtney Howard. She's the president of CAPE. She's been the person primarily involved in the divestment policies. So I'm talking a bit from myself and a lot from information and things that she has done to promote this idea. We have various physicians across the country developing various policies. This I couldn't find the English version of this. It's a great module that explains why active transportation is advantageous to one's personal health and to the health of society. There's different pamphlets advocating active transportation, that is public transportation plus walking and biking, and showing all the personal and society and climate change advantages of doing so. This just came out this week. A climate change toolkit for health professionals. Anybody can use it. Most of the things we do have a health focus, but certainly not limited to doctors or other health professionals. This is quite an extensive series of articles and recommendations for further action on how we can target climate change. And this was introduced at the Canadian Public Health Association this week in Ottawa. So what is Bccape? A few of us got together in BC to try to focus on areas that were of primary interest to doctors and others, environmentalists here. We focus mainly on fracking. We think that strongly that the fracking industry that's been developing in the northeast of BC is the biggest blight on BC's environmental policies. It's creating the most greenhouse gases. It's creating impossibilities for us to meet climate change targets. So we organized a tour up north, and recently we brought people from the northeast down here to talk about this. We strongly feel that more people should be knowledgeable and engaged in this. Most people in the south don't really have a good grasp of what's going on because it's so far away. Geographically, it's almost part of Alberta. But to go up there and see the devastation that Site C is doing, that the fracking industry is doing, see the whole way of life of indigenous communities and farmers is being torn apart by the fracking industry there. It's just dramatic stuff. So this is what we recently did. It was a 5-city tour of Vancouver Island and Lower Mainland, bringing these people that are affected by the fracking industry. The two on the left are farmers. Next is Molly Wickham of Gedimden, clan of the Wet'suwet'en, who's been quite active. The next two are a physician and environmental consultant The physician has been quite involved in looking into literature and personal experiences of the dramatic effects that the oil and gas industry is having on people up there. Warren Bell next is one of the founders of CAPE, and Elizabeth May of the Green Party was our headline speaker. This has all been recorded, and we had another session in Vancouver a couple days later where David Suzuki was a headliner. I think we achieved something by this tour, but still a lot to be done. And the other thing we're involved with is we're connected with the BC Parks Foundation. One of our members has been active in giving talks about the advantages of being in nature, and we organize talks where doctors or other lead walks in various parts of BC, primarily provincial parks, to try to show what the advantages are of being in nature and how much we're losing by our destruction of nature. And one thing I want to promote is this is coming up in the future on October 7th. GreenPAC is trying to organize 100 all-candidates debates in 100 ridings across Canada. We're actively supporting this, and hopefully other people will get involved in this too. There's their contact at the bottom right. CAPE will get involved in this, and hopefully many other organizations to really bring a discussion of climate change and environmental issues to the upcoming federal election. It's just a really crucial time that I think it's incumbent upon all of us to really be involved in this election campaign. So divestment. What's motivating us? This is the Lancet, a premier British medical journal that's been motivating a lot of us. Climate change is the biggest global health threat of the 21st century, and we probably know that. But to have a respected medical journal state this was really helpful for our cause. And interesting, they turned it around a bit a few years ago, saying tackling climate change is the greatest health opportunity. So paint a bit more positive or active picture, basically saying the same thing, but in a more encouraging way, which I think was a positive thing to do. So, and the British seem to be ahead of us. They decided to divest from fossil fuels in 2014. Again, was one of the initiators of us to do something similar. And the International Federation of Medical Students beat us to the punch also. They called on governments to create a society-wide transition to a carbon-free economy through the divestment of fossil fuels and the immediate withdrawal of fossil fuel subsidies. So some of our progress here was the Canadian Medical Association in 2015 decided to divest its holdings in fossil fuel companies. This was part of a process mainly initiated by Courtney Howard, our president, who the year before had taken the same motion to the Canadian Medical Association, and it was defeated. So due to her and others' persistent efforts, we finally got this passed. And MD Management, which is the financial arm of the Canadian Medical Association, decided to offer a fossil fuel-free fund in 2016. Yeah, try to say that 5 times. It's a great achievement, so doctors have the ability to invest in a fossil fuel-free fund or in the regular fund. We would have liked to have them divest totally from fossil fuels, but that wasn't in the card. So at least this was an achievement to encourage doctors to invest in this fossil fuel-free fund. For better or for worse, the company has been sold by the Canadian Medical Association to Scotiabank, so I'm not sure where that leaves it in terms of divestment or what that holds for the future. So this is one of the pamphlets we put out in terms of divestment. I left a few copies at the front desk. It's somewhat dated, but gives an idea of what we do. Yeah, so this review the history a bit. That it was mainly Courtney Howard from the Northwest Territories that proposed this motion and worked hard to get it accepted. And she said that the important thing to do was just to keep at it. And a lot of times we don't succeed first, but we got to keep going. She said a lot of people were involved in had to be politicked. You take people out for dinner, you call them up, you try to get voting members on side. It's not an easy process, but a necessary process to achieve productive ends. One thing she said, know the information better than anybody else. I thought that's really interesting. So educate yourself. So there's always going to be people that object. There's going to be naysayers. So you got to be smarter than they are, or better research than they are, so you can refute their arguments. Be persistent. Be prepared for failure. And be positive is another thing. It's easy to get negative and down about a lot of the things happening to the environment, and trying to look at things in a positive or constructive way can be helpful. I guess you can't really see this, but yeah, this is a summary of some of the resolutions. Now, the last one here, the Canadian Medical Association will explore investment opportunities in renewable energy. As Audrey said, it's as important to invest properly as to divest. That we've got to learn what the proper investments are in addition to divesting from fossil fuels. This is something I was involved. I came into it at a later stage, and we passed a resolution to get the Canadian Medical Association to promote discussion on climate change and to print articles. It was a nice resolution. It was well received, but I don't think anything's basically been done about it since. How are these fossil fuel-free funds doing? The equity fund is doing well. The bond fund not so well, but most bond funds aren't doing so well. So it's probably doing as well as any other investment fund. Now, one thing I don't think we talk about enough, there's this group called the Citizens Climate Lobby that talks about subsidies to fossil fuel companies, a bit of a separate topic, but BC alone subsidizes fossil fuel companies more than $1 billion per year. And plus all the advantages, this is not even consider all the advantages they're going to give to LNG Canada for the natural gas pipeline that's going to amount to billions of more dollars. And when we talk about the fact that we're subsidizing fossil fuel or subsidizing renewables. We're really not. We're a lot of what our governments do is talk the talk but not walk the walk. Yeah. So this is the next slide shows what countries are doing in terms of investing in renewables, and you see Canada's way down there near the bottom. And this is absolute. It's not per capita, but we should be doing a better job than that investing in renewables. And you see countries like China, even the United States is far ahead of us. So we complain about the American president and how what a aggressive person he is. The United States at the end of the day is still doing more than we are to develop renewable energy. This is an amazing complex in Hudson's Hope. The city there, most of the installations in the city are run by solar power. And this is an example of what can be done. Don Pettit, a fellow who lives in Dawson Creek, is one of the founders of this energy corporation. And at the same time, we talk about divestment and getting rid of fossil fuels. There's got to be something to replace it. The active things that he and a group like that is doing to replace it, I think it's just dynamite and where we should be going. Thank you.